Movie theaters are still shut down, but Family Video is open to grab a movie to watch at home, and while you're at it, you can grab a consultation with your doctor.
It's a good option.
Bullet holes just like this one can be found all over the area of Roseneath Avenue and Howland Street after a shooting occurred at a party early Saturday morning. Quincy police say this fire appears to be accidental and not suspicious. One of the victims actually threw this fire extinguisher out the window and had to jump from the top floor. It represents male scent in the eastern part of the United States, and the red is from this year. And as you can see, it took a nosedive in July. For a lot of kids, the first day of school looked a lot like this, but for other kids, they actually returned to in-person classrooms, and everyone from kids to parents to teachers are trying to adjust on the fly. This all started at this house behind me. Police say the suspect broke into this house before running over to this house right next door. That's when police showed up surrounding the house, leading to the standoff. A gunfire was exchanged, and ultimately the suspect was killed. More crime happens here at the O'Connell Lodge than anywhere else in the city. Now, starting on December 10th, it's going to be closed. I have personally received more than 10 texts offering me $500 up to $3,000 in emergency funds. It sounds pretty great, but these are all a scam. Breaking and entering is broadly defined in Michigan. For example, removing the screen from a window is sufficient. You can protect yourself and others only if the person is inside your house. People close to Amonte Bowser called him Smiley. He got that big, bright smile from his mom, Alicia.
Hi, baby.
Alicia and the rest of the family haven't been smiling much since early Saturday morning.
I got the worst news of my life. Things happened, and my son was murdered for no reason.
It's like my whole body just shut down. I couldn't breathe.
Albion police say Bowser was involved in a fight at a house party on Cooper Street that ended with him gunned down on the street. The 27-year-old father loved to sing and to cook. His family says he was working hard to turn his life around, an opportunity that was taken.
Who would do that to him? Everybody's saying the same thing. Why and who?
Police are asking the same thing, trying to track down leads. It's the same thing Battle Creek police have been asking about Amonte's cousin, Joseph Bowser, since he was shot and killed in early 2018.
We didn't get closure for Joe. We didn't get closure for any of the other murders that's unsolved. We need closure. We need it. Our family is getting smaller and smaller by the second. Please don't let my brother's murder be unsolved. Please give any information y'all can.
Amonte's memory is tattooed on his brother Ahmad's arm.
That was my other half. I love you so much, bro.
And that smile, his mom's smile, lives on.
I love you and I miss you so much.
For 34 years, Dr. Rakesh Bond has been practicing right here in Battle Creek. Comprehensive medical care sees more than 3,000 patients. Right next door is a Bronson Healthcare testing lab for COVID-19. Dr. Bond says he was told the lab won't test any of his patients because his private practice isn't affiliated with Bronson. In the middle is Dr. Bond, to his right, head nurse Deb Carls, and to the left, Marilyn Perez, who handles patient scheduling and screening. Right now, comprehensive medical care is only taking emergency calls. Dr. Bond got one this week, a patient with COVID-19 symptoms who he determined met the testing requirements. But comprehensive medical care doesn't have any testing kits, so Carl's called Bronson.
We send our patients to Bronson all the time. They happily take them, but we never heard a thing like that before.
Carl says through questioning, Bronson determined the patient did meet the criteria, but when it came to scheduling a test,
what she said to me was, don't shoot the messenger. We're only seeing Bronson patients at this time. I was upset because I feel bad for our patients. They're scared. We can't even direct them to go get a test.
Every hospital takes care of their communities. It doesn't matter who the patient is, as long as the patient lives there. But telling the patient that your doctor is not a Bronson employee doctor, we cannot test you, is a wrong statement.
This is my doctor, and I've been here on the front line every day. Yeah. And I'm concerned for myself and my family.
They tried calling the Calhoun County Health Department for guidance, but got this.
You have reached Calhoun County Health Department.
A health department employee I spoke to wouldn't comment on this case, but tells me patients that go to private practices with no kits should be screened by hospitals that do. Dr. Bond says his patient is doing okay. If her condition worsens, he says he may have to send her and future patients to the University of Michigan. Just a short while ago, Bronson emailed me saying that any patient that meets the qualifications can be tested, even if their doctor is not affiliated with Bronson, and that a Bronson team member would be reaching out to comprehensive medical care to resolve any concerns.
The police, they don't know what they do to us after they kill our people. They treat us like crap. They don't answer our questions. They don't comfort us. They don't do none of that. They don't care.
That's what Tiffany Smith told us outside the Battle Creek Police Department on Sunday. Today, Battle Creek Police Chief Jim Blocker says it's the relationships his officers have formed with the community that allowed Sunday's protest to happen with no arrests, no major property damage, and no violent confrontations with police.
I think that's an important first step in trying to work through some of the tension that exists.
Blocker says police coordinated with organizers on the first part of the protest, which began with people gathering at Friendship Park. Southwestern Michigan Urban League president and CEO Kyra Wallace was one of those organizers.
We need you to be aware of how we're feeling, what we're feeling, the outrage that we're feeling.
Later in the evening, the protest moved to the highway, where I-94 feeds into downtown. People set off fireworks, did burnouts in their cars, and officers watched from a distance.
And it kind of took on a mind of its own, and frankly, we saw no harm in it. There's a high level of tension, and it needed to be released at some place and at some point.
Wallace says she's happy protests in Calhoun County have not turned violent or destructive. She says the most important part is for the protesters to be heard.
If you are listening to what we're having to say, if you're being respectful, whatever that may look like, to how we are choosing to protest, then there's no need to go beyond that point. No one got hurt, and everyone was able to go home, and I think they were heard.
Signs warning patients violence is not tolerated hang on hospital walls. Nurses and other frontline medical staff dedicate their lives to the well-being of others, but the people they're caring for are threatening their own well-being.
I would say nurses experience some sort of violence in the workplace every day. We have patients hitting us, spitting at us, slapping, biting. When I was pregnant with my daughter, I had an elderly gentleman try to hit me in my stomach.
Jamie Brown is the president of the Michigan Nurses Association. She's also an RN at Ascension Borges. She's been fighting for better protection for nurses for 10 years, but she says the conversation is just now picking up.
For so long, we have been a women-dominated profession, and women have been taught historically to just take the abuse and put up with it and get on with your life.
Would you say that most cases of violence go unreported?
I would say probably more than 90% of violence goes underreported in the hospitals.
And why is that?
Because there's nothing that they will do. It's not a felony to commit violence against us.
Unlike assaulting a police officer or firefighter, assaulting a nurse is not an automatic felony in Michigan. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration found healthcare workers were 4 times more likely to experience workplace violence than other private industry employees. Hospitals are required by law to treat anyone, even the most violent criminals, even those with a history of assaulting nurses. Denise Neely, Chief Operating Officer for Bronson Methodist, says nurses need better protection.
What happens to a nurse shouldn't be treated differently than if she was on the street and somebody punched or kicked one of our staff.
Neely says she supports legislation that would make assaulting a nurse a felony, but she says a better path to protection is prevention.
I want to make sure.
John Hoadley, the state rep for Kalamazoo, agrees.
You know, I think it is hard to be figuring out exactly, what additional penalty enhancement should be available for which careers. It is imperative that we put on the books some plans for our hospitals to make sure that they've got a plan to deal with workplace violence.
House Bill 5089 would require hospitals create violence prevention plans and report violence that happens. Neely and Brown say violence is causing nurses to leave the industry, contributing to a nurse shortage. The nurses who stay have to treat more patients, more potential assailants.
Even when they're treating us horribly, we still take good care of them.
We work through it, we take deep breaths, and we come back every day.